Hello, everyone. Welcome back to This is Dunder Moose. Oh my goodness, have we got a show for you tonight. So before I introduce my illustrious guests, I do kind of want to talk a little bit about what I've been doing. I know you guys probably haven't seen it. I've been doing this interview thing. It's 2 years into the channel and I still haven't hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. And I thought, I know what YouTube wants. YouTube wants these like shorter videos to come out on a regular schedule. So I decided I was going to try to do some solo gaming. I got 4 Against Darkness here. And I thought, well, I'm going to play the game and I'll generate the dungeon as I'm playing. And hopefully at the end of the game, I'll have something that I can drop into my face-to-face first edition game on the map. I can just say, boom, there's a dungeon already made. And we'll see if it does a good job because it'll have already been played in. So there'll be some history to it, right? So I created some dungeons and I looked at them and I realized I don't know what's good and what's bad. I don't know if this worked or if this made a crappy dungeon or whatever. And so, but the good news is, oh, my friends, I know some people who absolutely do this kind of junk for a living. So thank you to my guests for coming on. Let's go around the room. We'll go clockwise on my screen. First, I've got the Chubby Funster, and he has been tearing it up on this exact topic. If you guys have seen his YouTube videos lately, he's talking about dungeon design and like looking at some famous ones and what's good about them and that kind of stuff. So if you haven't watched that yet, well, finish watching this first. I need those views, but then go over there and like binge that series, and it's pretty awesome. So welcome, Chubby. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Moving right along.
Yeah, it's frozen in mid conversation.
It's usually Macris that does that
at the
to
beach this week. It's fall at the perfect timing. That might happen to me a few times because I am on Airbnb Wi-Fi, which is notoriously reliable, and so I'm doing my best. I got lowest camera quality possible for you guys, and we're gonna try to keep those packets small. Let's do it.
I've actually got good camera quality. It's just my face is low quality, so that's what y'all are having to deal with now. But yeah, that vacation Wi-Fi, it's just a little more relaxed at the beach, and we're gonna show some grace for that. Next on my screen is Ben Gibson, Coldlight Press, famously Adventure Sites 1 and 2, and stay tuned because we might have another one coming up soon. So Ben, tell me a little bit about well, I don't know. I don't want to let's go around first and then I'll start asking the questions because I got a ton of questions and I want to give everyone a chance. So say hi to the people and tell them how you got in this dungeon thing real quick.
Hi to people. We've talked about we have absolutely talked about kind of my beginnings before, but I think somebody is just going to be the GM, then it's instinctive. I started playing not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, like it's been about a decade. But then I started running stuff. I started sketching out stuff very, very quickly afterwards. And I realized, hey, wait a minute, I want to run this stuff. Yeah. You just see there's some that are nature's players and some that are nature's GMs. We were just talking in the green room before about my kids. My older 2 are nature's players. They want to make heroes. They want to do fun things. My youngest, my 6-year-old, he sits with me and he says, Dad, I'm sorry you're always losing. And then he comes and he sketches. So his older brother and older sister both, sketch characters and heroes. He comes back to me. He goes away with a piece of paper and sketches out something. And he goes, here. And he hands me this. He says, see, look, here's a floor that goes away. And behind there's a cage full of traps. And there's a zombie inside of the cage. And I was like, oh, you're one of nature's GMs.
That's true. You spotted him early.
Yes. So I think that's how most of us who run things, we just are born that way.
Right on, man. The next one up on my screen, Rob Alderman, Mr. Pulp Hummock Press. This is Dunder Moose debut. I have had the rest of these, everybody else on your screen, including me, has actually been on this show before. I can't believe it's taken me this long to get you on the show. Welcome to This is Dunder Moose.
Thank you.
I know you got a lot of options. There's a lot of YouTube channels out there. Why did you decide to take a chance on this rinky-dink operation?
Chubby was like, he's cool, man.
Right on.
Good. I think I'd seen a couple of your videos here and there. Gary Lewis at Second Watch talked real highly of you too. So,
okay, wow.
I spoke to both of them there. I was like, "Who's this Dynamos? I've seen him around before. What do you know about him?" Like, he's cool. I was like, "All right, he's cool. I'm going on. Let's do it, baby."
Right on. I don't think I've offended any of my guests so bad that they've like done the whole rip the mic out and storm off the set. We'll see if I can achieve that tonight. But so far everyone's still smiling. And if you guys scroll up in the chat, there's a ton of ways you can support this panel. You can give them some support. So I got links in the comments there for their projects. Do you want to just take a little bit and tell us about your latest Kickstarter for Pulp Hummock Press?
Yeah, doing a huge mega adventure, 1,500 pages, the Whopper, and I'm about 3 or 4 weeks away from finishing the last book's manuscript, and so it should be to my backers sometime, probably early December, late November. I'm not sure yet. Still working out with Glenn Seal. He's my layout guy. I think he might be the layout guy. Others too.
Right on.
But, yeah, that's it. So I'm almost done, and I've been working on this almost 10 years. So it's sort of my art and vool, if you want to think of it that way. It's been a lot of work. So I'm gonna take a gap year or something after this.
Is this part of the Gods of the Forbidden North setting?
Yeah, it's the third volume. I got the first 2 is already out there, and the last
Rock on.
It's coming. So
yeah, and I was a few weeks ago. I was visiting DM Blackwall, and we were playing his game Horde Wars and his new one Dropship, and I was. So you know how like whenever you go to someone's house and like you see their bookshelf, like you can't help but just like stare at it for a little bit and look at the books around there. And I saw his Gods of the Forbidden North collection. I was like, okay, a gentleman of distinction and refinement. All right, and lastest but not leastest, Mr. Alexander Macris. I think is this your 3rd or 4th time on the channel? And speaking of bookshelves. The first time he was on there, he just dropped my jaw with his, like, I brought up Rifts, and then, like, that was, like, the show for, like, 10 minutes is him just pulling, like, Robotech books and stuff off the show. But Alexander, welcome back on, man. Always good to talk to you. How's it going with Before All Others, the Elven Kickstarter project?
Oh, it's going great. Had a massive start. We broke 100K in like the first 36 hours. We're at about 110 something now. So it's just doing tremendous. The support from the elves has been high. The support from the dwarves has been high. I ended up selling out of all my copies of Buy This Axe as the dwarf lovers came out to show their support. So it's great. Couldn't be happier. So thank you.
Would you say elves are winning or dwarves are winning?
Well, it's tough. It's a tough comparison because the axe community is much bigger than it was when I did Buy This Axe, right? Like when I did Buy This Axe, it was my largest Kickstarter ever, and it did 50K. And but now the community is like 6 times bigger. So,
so would you say that the elves stand head and shoulders above the dwarves?
Yes, clearly so. Yes, they are. They do, as a matter of fact, stand head and shoulders above the dwarves. Yeah.
Oh, righty. There's one other thing that I got to get out of the way. I'm trying something new tonight, guys. So I have played 3 games of this, Generating the Dungeons, and as some of you may or may not know, I have been coloring in it with my colored pencils. So I want to show my favorite guy in here. He's right by the traps table. I finally colored him. Look how disgusting that creature is.
Oh, yeah.
He's just like got 2 mismatched legs. He's just like licking his scabrous hand with his pink tongue. Anyway, I thought, you know what? I'm going to be moving on from this. I've got other other games, other things to try for playing a game and generating content. And so I thought, you know what, maybe I should give this away. So we're going to do, if you stick around to the end of the show, if I can figure the tech out and I don't screw it up, we're going to do a giveaway for everybody that's in the chat. I'm going to give you a code to type in, and I'll tell you when to do that because I have to make it start listening first. But then you type in the code. Everyone that types in the code will be entered for a chance to win the Dunder Moose copy of 4 Against Darkness. And then I'll get your details and ship that out to you free of charge. And we'll see how that goes. Tom's game table. Only Dunder Moose would force his guests to look at his coloring book work. Oh man, you have no idea. In the green room, I was showing him multiple colored. I haven't colored everything in the book, but I've got some choice pieces. So let me just share my screen real quick and let's kick this pig off. Presenter invite, share screen. All right. So I don't know. Can you guys see this all right? Is this showing? This is
good.
All right. This is the first map that I created with the tool. And it takes me a while. So I ran out of time before tonight's episode to like put in all the stuff. So I can tell you, if you like, what's in each of those rooms. I had like the big room right here in the middle. There was a fungi folk encounter. Is it fungi or fungi? Fungi folk. So 3 fungi folk. Up here we had trolls. There's a spear trap in this room, and this was actually the TPK dungeon. I had, you play it with 4 people, 4 Against Darkness, and they fought their way through. And like the final room here had the boss monster, and he killed him. So yeah, this is what I've got. I don't think that like I can use everything in the game that I played because, well, like the gold pieces, there's just not that many because the game that it is set up for, stuff isn't that expensive. So I'm like, that's one of the things I would have to twist in order to put it into another, game system. The monsters are kind of all over the place because it's random. The treasures, there's like only 6 types. There's only 6 spells. There's only 6, it's a D6 system. It's a D6 to determine what room's next. So all of that to say, the games that I create are going to need some extra love. But here was the third game I played. The second one I'm still halfway through. I was recording it as I went. This one started off in this very entrance. It started off with a Minotaur. Is it Minotaur or Minotaur? You can tell I read more than I actually talk to people. But it starts off with a Minotaur right in the opening room. And I'm like, oh man, how crazy is that? It's got a guardian. This thing has a Catoblapa or Catablapus or however you say that one. And it's got, it's got a boss dragon fight in here. So this one was much more dangerous. Kind of more rooms and stuff. But so I'm wondering, as you guys look at this, maybe we'll start with the Chubby Funster because he's been really focused on this. What stands out to you about these maps? Does this look good or does this look bad? How does it fit into your framework?
You astonished him.
Oh, did I freeze him? Did I ask for the guy with the bad Wi-Fi?
I was frozen. Whatever happened.
Okay.
I remember you talking about a Minotaur, and then.
Okay. I'm just asking about. Let's start with this first map right here, and I know you've been looking really at map layout. So I was thinking maybe that was the first thing that we could start judging on is what rooms go where. How does this strike you? All of the maps that are generated in this game kind of fit in the same rectangle. And it tends to create like a denser map structure if you play with 4 Against Darkness. So I know you've been really looking at maps and you have like 4 different types of layout. So if you want to just like, you start off down here in the bottom. I couldn't figure out how to cut that line out because it's dungeon scroll. But you start off in the bottom and then you make your way through. They immediately are presented with the choice of 3 doors and the game goes on like that. So
I think that's part of the thing is to manage the amount of choices that the players have at any given moment. If they walk in and there's 48 doors in the first room, that's going to be crazy, right? You want to
It's like
go
the,
in. We were talking about Dwimmermount before the show. Like when you come into the entrance of Dwimmermount, there's a door on your right, there's a door going forward, there's a door on your left, and there's one kind of side door that kind of goes back a little bit towards the direction you came down the stairs from. So that would probably be the max for me. Like you don't want any more than that, or people, they just go into analysis paralysis. So having 3 doors here is good. And then one of the things I've talked about in my videos is that once the players make one choice and move forward, all those other choices are still on the table, right? Because they could go back. So you have to make sure that at any given time, they're not facing an overwhelming amount of choice, or they'll sit there and argue about what to do. They'll get confused. So it's just better gameplay experience. I mean, like there might be a theoretical like, oh, maximum player agency, 48 doors or whatever. But I mean, like the practical experience at the table is that you need to have kind of some limit on the amount of choices you're giving people in terms of doors and hallways and stuff at any given moment. That I think people get carried away with that, and they either go one direction too high or too low.
Yeah.
I think, if there's only 2 or 3 choices at any given moment, then that's not enough. You want to widen, make it more open, and have players want to go in different directions.
So in your last video about Phandelver, you mentioned cognitive load, and I don't know if you were
especially
speaking
for new GMs. That's a huge problem. Yeah.
So you were talking mainly about the GM, but it also occurs to me like the players, as they're going, the more routes they didn't take is the more things that like goes on the mental checklist of things that they have to remember to come back and stuff. And in this game, it's actually dangerous to backtrack because each room that you've already cleared that you've been through, you have to roll a d6 and you might encounter wandering monsters for each room. Whereas like in 1E, like it's a good thing to have already been somewhere because you move faster through the rooms you've already, investigated and that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if that
every room. Wow, that could be brutal.
It's only on a 1 on a d6, but yeah. So I'm wondering if that plays into your don't give them too many choices right up front, because they're going to want to write down all the possible hallways and doors that they didn't try.
Exactly. Or if it's on a VTT, they might just be able to look at it constantly.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask the whole panel: do you guys do you provide maps, or do you have a mapper as part of the player base when you got your group playing? Like, is it all out on the table and they can let the map or the VTT keep track of it, or do you have somebody with grid paper as you play through?
What I do, when I'm playing first, in person, I'll sketch portions of the map onto the battle map, but the dungeon maps are always much bigger than the available battle map space.
Mm-hmm.
So then I erase it as they go. And so it's the mapper's job to make sure that he's tracked what has been erased and has compiled it together in a coherent format. And if they don't do that, then they can later find themselves greatly confused about what's happened. Same is true on a VTT. The fog of war will expose what they can see in their current location, but it's up to them if they want to record it into a more permanent map.
So like doing screenshots as they go and like pasting it in a PowerPoint or something.
I guess they could do that. I mean, I think my actual mapper does it with pen and paper, but yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like that was part of the old school game, was like maybe not trying to get them lost, but like that was on the table. What are your thoughts, Pulp?
Oh, on in terms of how I run it at the table.
Yeah, and the amount of choices that the players get.
Real quick on the when I run it, I usually do like a VTT, and so I've got the dynamic lighting and everything, and I basically, like Alex said, if they want to map it, they got to screenshot it or whatever dwarves do nowadays. I don't know. Alex probably wrote about that, right? The screenshotting dwarves. I don't know. I guess in terms of the number of choices, usually 3 is good, but you can have more. I think that you can have more. I think 3 is a good starting point. I would say, like, obviously we're just looking at a map here. But the thing that sprang out to me at the map was not just that you had 3 choices, but that I see some looping going on in the actual maps themselves. Like if you go left up in that hexagon room, come around, and you can do another loop, kind of like an oblong loop. So looping, of course, in the dungeon design is always good. Not speaking of bad pronunciations, I think I want to butcher the name, but jaquazing or jaqueezing. I can never pronounce that word. I know how to spell it. But yeah, making the loops like they did in Caverns of Thracia.
Yeah.
And, so I saw that in the bottom half of the map. I haven't really tried to do it in the top half. We start talking, but I like that.
Well, it's interesting too, because this octagon room is actually a cursed altar. So like the first time they go in there, somebody gets like -1 to fighting the undead and demons. And so it's like, it's almost like there's certain parts you don't want to loop back through just because it's an environmental hazard. So,
but do they know that? Do they know that they're getting a -1, or is it just you feel bad?
Well,
because that's like a hidden effect.
That's part of the thing when you're playing it solo, it, right? Like,
well, yeah.
Unless you're like really role playing, you're like, oh, of the 4 guys, the 2 of them wouldn't have noticed that, It's, I don't know, but like, yeah, when you lift it out of the solo play and then put it into the realm of something that others will have to play through.
Well, because I ran my son through Sinister Stone of Sakara,
right,
and he killed Drusus, and he was very happy to get this armor, and he took it off, put it on. He walked around wearing that armor for a long time before he realized that it was cursed and giving him an AC penalty the whole time that I was calculating in secret. And he thought he was just unlucky. He just kept getting.
How come they keep hitting me?
Yeah,
it was awesome.
All right, Ben, what are your thoughts as you look at this map? Let me guess. You're going to say those rooms are too small. You need to have at least one ginormous one.
Well, big rooms are good. It's nice to just have enormous rooms. I was actually, so to answer the first question, I usually have, if it's square like this, I'll usually have players map it. If it's irregular things like caves, I'll usually sketch it out myself because that's just hard. I'll give them dimensions, but it's hard like this. And I probably would tell them to do the hexagon just because I kind of like to mess with them and I like the sad faces they make. But yeah, so I was just looking at it. There's something called the melon diagram. If you know who Gabor Lux is, he's a really good Hungarian dungeon designer. Castles Antilla, and it's probably his most famous work.
Yeah.
But Milan had a diagram where he would just make basically a ball and stick diagram for all connections. And it shows things like where this map is, you can see, if you look carefully, you can actually see that it is more linear than it first appears. If you look in the left, that left area is all kind of its own thing and it doesn't actually connect. So the bottom left does not connect to the top left at all. It looks like right. Your players would probably recognize at least the form of a square map, so they'll often take a look for what's the connection here. I tap, do I hear echoes? They would kind of poke and prod and look for something secret. There's actually a missed opportunity at the bottom. There's that one that kind of open area to the right. The open area to the left is kind of its own little, I guess I would probably make it like a prison or something. Well, that blank area to the right, symmetry is actually good if it matters. So if you have a player mapper, they're looking for symmetrical things. And if you can see a gap, what I would do is I'd probably have a secret room in there that they would be able to figure out using symmetry. They feel really good if they notice something. Hey, there's an open space here. It would match this other side.
Yeah.
I bet there's a secret door here. Like that puzzle making is a big part of dungeon exploration, like a big part of the mapping experience. I think Chubby was poking on kind of the question is, how do you know which door to go through? Because if you just see 3 doors, then they're going to be rolling a D3 to see which way they go first, or they're just going to say, well, we always go left.
Yeah.
So you need to have some sort of indicator, maybe there'd be blood drag marks on the left one. If they listen really carefully at the center one, they can hear the howling of the or however you're going to pronounce the monster. So you just have little hints, and it's dead silent in the other one. So you basically, you give them little hints, and all those could be equally valid. All those could be good plans to go through. But if you have that kind of setup, then you can just take a look at everything and you can say, okay, so I'm going to start making tactical decisions. Because something I bump into a lot when I'm reviewing is I see people who have spaghetti maps that have all kinds of, it looks nice and splattered, but if you actually start studying it, you realize there's no way for players to figure out which way to go. And there's no benefit for choosing which way to go or strategic choice there. So that's something you definitely want to invest in.
So signals for player choice, something that rewards people that pay attention and is satisfying that they were either able to recognize warnings or, I don't know, maybe they're like Yukon Cornelius and they can throw their pick up in the air and then taste which way the gold lies. This one actually, the first room here, the big 2x7 or whatever it is, just had treasure, which I thought, again, it's randomly generated but it's like there's no way in an actual dungeon that the very first room, unless it was sealed and nobody had broken in and you were the first ones to discover it, treasure just lying in it. And then the door to the left goes to the cursed altar. The door to the middle goes to the big room with the fungi folk in it that only have 6 gold pieces. And that tiny little hallway to the right managed to have 3 trolls in it. So.
Well, you can have treasure anywhere you want, Dunder, as long as you surround it with blood and body parts of somebody who was carrying that treasure before, whatever that guy was carrying in the bathroom in Jurassic Park, the T-Rex took him out of the equation, and it is there left for you. You can put that treasure anywhere, man.
You got to dig around in the poop for the satellite phone that's ringing.
Exactly. And when you were talking about player choice at the doors, I like to do things that make the player sees some way they can use it in a way. So if there's a portcullis and you have to actually lift it up and it click, 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 and you can raise it up. And then if you pull a lever, the portcullis comes slamming down. Players will figure out how to use that to their advantage. Yeah, they'll figure some way out. Everything you put in there that is a manipulatable thing, that is what the players will graft onto. That's why I think throwing out tons of utility equipment like pickaxes or ropes or whatever is great. Just chuck it all over the place because they'll think of ways to use it. You know? And to answer your question on running the game, I run it on a VTT and I black everything out with Fog of War like these guys were saying. And I was running Rob's Tomb of Morcall, which is in the first book of Gods of the Forbidden North. And every time they would go in, they would lose 2 guys and then they would pull out and I'd black it all back out again. And they couldn't remember where they go. And so we had one guy who went in and there's a pit trap and he jumped over the pit trap. He realized there was a pit trap there and he jumped over the pit trap and he got killed by another trap on the other side, which is Rob's way of murdering you. Right? So he died. He made a new character. He came back in. And because I was blacking everything out all the time, he couldn't remember where the pit trap was. And he fell in the pit trap the second time. So he died 5 feet from his former corpse.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So blacking it out is really good. People have a very hard time remembering. Yeah.
So so that kind of answers the question. You kind of do both. You show it, you black it out, and so it's in their best interest to have a map maker, even with a VTT. I really love that. How do you feel, Rob, knowing that those 2 back-to-back traps both worked on the same player?
I feel good.
Rob was in the game.
Oh, he was there when it happened.
I was laughing, trying to suppress my. No, I was laughing. I was just laughing. No, it's great, man. Fantastic.
So these were. I'll go to the other one as well. So these were procedurally generated, and so they have a certain look. They're tight, they're cramped. I mean, you do get some long hallways, but they tend to be the straight north-south ones, right? When you guys are creating one, not procedurally, but like from your imagination and that kind of thing, how do you use some of those features like giant rooms, hallways, things like that? Like, do you just put something in there that looks nice, or do you like kind of go in your mind's eye and imagine what would be cool, or is there more of a gamesmanship to it?
Well, for me, Dunder,
Oh, go ahead.
I tend to take an approach really, really focused on verisimilitude. So
Okay.
I'll look at a map. So if I'm starting with someone else's map, I will look at the map and I will think, what would have motivated whoever created this to create this map? So like on Secrets of the Nether City, I actually started with this map by Dyson Logos that I really liked, that I licensed from him. And it was
Okay.
this weird sort of sprawling map with all these strange connections, and there was different types of architecture, and some parts looked like tombs and some parts looked like they reminded me of cathedrals and all this weird stuff. So I just sat there and I kind of iteratedly thought, how would you end up with this circumstance? And be like, okay, well, they must have built it over time, and maybe the soil was harder and softer in certain places, and that's why it's excavated in these places.
Oh, I
and
see.
not
It's
in these
easier
other
to dig in
places.
certain spots.
You know, and maybe when they built this part, then they realized they needed to do this other thing. So they added a chapel for the workers because workers were dying in the construction or whatever.
Is this the one you're talking about?
That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
That is enormous.
Exactly. Enormous map.
Love it.
Yeah. And so I would say the virtue of that approach is that when the players are in the dungeon, it you know, the gradual unveiling of the dungeon, everything will make sense and it feels very real. And if they pay attention to that reality, they can begin to deduce things about the dungeon that can help them navigate it. The downside is that sometimes, you know, like I would say one could occasionally accuse ACKS dungeons of being, let's say, quote, less interesting than some of the more gonzo dungeons that others have created, because their focus has been strictly like, you know, purely from a game mechanical thing, what would be the most fun, zany, gonzo, wild and crazy, whatnot. And I tend not to think that way. So if I was looking at this dungeon, I would be sitting there thinking like, okay, you know, why is it cut this way? Why didn't they put some rooms in some of these obvious locations? You know, what's going on here? Why did they not put some of the doors where it seems like there would be doors? And I would be like thinking of explanations for that, and then would reverse engineer from those explanations.
Which is the reason why we see about 8,000 Mad Wizard did it modules for every other explanation. Like an insane wizard was bored and did this, which is fine. But you know, you go into a certain point. Myself, so I always make a dungeon because I need it. I run a crap ton of games. Like I'm always in the need for content, even though I grab adventure sites from my contest. I have all kinds of other things. I do actually find some gold here and there.
Is that why you started the contest? You're like, I need more content to game. This is the best.
It wasn't for myself, but actually I started the contest because I got really mad at one-page dungeons no longer being usable. And also I found it was really nice to get feedback on my own adventures, and I wanted other people to kind of be able to get review and feedback too. But the nice side effect was, I need content. Like I run a lot of D&D. I run a lot of sci-fi. I run a lot of stuff, and I always have a need for, well, they're going into this area. They found things. They're looking for stuff. What would logically be here? So the verisimilitude is very important, like Alex said. But I also am like, so I need this, you know, I need a dungeon here. There's logically going to be a castle here, and they would probably have, they would definitely have a prison under here, and they would be keeping an aboleth in the water right here. And, so I would sometimes I'll find a map online and I'll use it. But if I'm doing, just my own stuff, I'm usually like, what is cool? Yeah. And so I both do the verisimilitude, but I also will kind of look, what is a cool scene? I do kind of want to see. That's why I do like large, impressive rooms, because that's a great thing to just kind of take a look at, and all the players go, whoa.
Is that
when they
just
go
going right
into-
back to when they first got in Moria and the columns going up into the infinity point above you?
Yes, yes. And all my dungeons, like the Moria dwarves, are non-OSHA compliant. That's also very important.
Right on.
We'll
Thank
make
you
sure
for
of
the
that.
$5, Planet Tobor TV. He says y'all are doing a good job, so appreciate that. We'll try and keep it good for you, bro.
About large rooms, one important note. I learned this the hard way. If you make the room larger than the size of the light source that they have, it can be really, really, really hard to describe the room or mess up your intent to show great grandeur. So, there's actually, if you go into Secrets of the Nether City, there's like this huge room you find at a certain point, and just like no other room in the dungeon is illuminated, but that particular room, the dungeon builders are like, yeah, we're going to build lights on the top of this room. And it was specifically because I wanted, when the players got to the massive grand room, I wanted them to be able to see the room and not be like, well, yeah, it fades into the darkness after about 15 feet, bros. Yeah, I guess it's big. So, don't do that. Make sure
you gotta
they
light
can
that
actually see
set
the cool
piece.
scene. Yeah. At a high level dungeon, it matters less because they'll have,
Right.
continual light or
Right
some
on.
shit, and they'll have daylight.
And
But
I did want to point out, I don't know if I'm having some connection issues. I don't know if I can even show the. There it is. Showing some love to Secrets of the Nether City. World of Worth says Secrets of the Nether City is one of the greatest modules I've ever had the pleasure of running. So, for the
I tried to
feedback,
get my guys to go in it. I tried very hard,
okay.
and they were afraid of the poop.
yep.
It was very tough. And then after they finally went in, they fought their way through, I think maybe 10, 15 rooms. And they were like, this is the most brutal stuff. Like, we're terrified. And they're like, I had players who said that if they felt bad about it, even though they knew it was just imaginary poop. And so they just like couldn't do it. They left. Weak bastards. I was really hoping they would keep going.
Were they simping for those disease checks?
Well, they ended up going to.
See,
I
that's
had
the thing,
Dwimmer
is the
Mount on
grosser the
map in
entrance,
another
the
place.
more likelihood.
And they went into Dwimmer Mount and like beat up on level 1s and 2s rather than go to the level appropriate dungeon. They were so scared of the poop.
You'd think that they would use the poop as a signal that, hey, there's probably a lot of treasure in there that hasn't already been looted because nobody wants to go through the poop.
I made that case multiple times.
Yep. And yet, it was anyway. Yeah.
It's
that turned out to be too effective a
realm
justification for
not
why
like
no one had
gross
looted the dungeon.
Yep.
I love it. All right. Any other thoughts? I'm gonna stop sharing the. I think you guys got a good taste of what the maps look like. Any other thoughts about layout or room design or hallways, that kind of stuff? Go ahead.
I think I use the word gimmick. I don't mean it in a negative way. Like, I think every dungeon needs to have some kind of a gimmick that is the thing that the designer said, this is really cool, and I'm going to design everything around that, right? And it could be, this is a really cool dungeon that you got to go down a sewer pipe to get to. It could be, I'm going to have this mountain that used to have a big civilization there, and now it's gone, so we're going to put all these little parts of the civilization in there, and you have to kind of figure out what happened, like in Dwimmer Mount. It could be that Rob wants to murder you, which is, I think, the gimmick of most of his dungeons. Just stuff like that. Like, it needs to have a thing, like to be serious, like the Tomb of Morcall is like, this dude was trying to hide all of his stuff from the world, so he built this like really dangerous tomb, like a Egyptian pharaoh, right? Like, he didn't want anybody to get in, so he made it really hard. Like, but whatever it is, there needs to be some gimmick and then you organize everything around that goal. That's I think the way that it works in your brain even. Yeah.
Are you using gimmick interchangeably with a theme, or are those different in your mind?
The theme could be different because I could take a lot of these dungeons and change the theme up enormously. I could turn the Nether City into some kind of Egyptian thing where it's sand instead of poop. People might not barf for that, but it'd still be just as deadly. It'd still be just as dangerous to have
be spice,
the
melange, sandworm poop.
Yeah, you could put Nether City in Traveler and make it into some kind of thing underneath a colony of some kind that's like remnants of the former colony. You can change up the theme. I think like the gimmick is, I think, how it's all organized mentally. This is a place that's been lost to time and nobody's been down here. This is a place this guy was trying to protect anybody from getting in. This is a place that used to be cool and everything fell apart. Whatever that organizing principle is.
Wait for it.
Yep.
What do you think about that, Rob?
The beach hates me. I
knew I was going to catch up as soon as I asked the
Vandelver,
next question.
And the gimmick is that they wanted something that the goblins could flood you out with. So they designed the whole dungeon around this little thing for the goblins to flood you out. So I think that whatever it is, like there's some kind of gimmick. Yeah. Sorry about my terrible internet.
I was thinking about that while I was watching your video, and I was like, man, the goblins really need to break the wall on the top pool first to keep the flood going. Right? Because if they break the bottom wall first and flood it the first time, then when they break the second wall, it's just going to fill up that first basin again.
That's true.
Anyway.
I don't know a lot about goblin engineering. It might work both ways due to goblin abilities. Who knows?
Ideally, it's terrible.
So what did you think, Rob, about the theme versus gimmick stuff that the Chubby Funster was talking about?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, Chubby. If he was my GM for a little while. Okay. He's a good GM. Chubb's a good GM. He's a really good one. I enjoyed it. I missed a lot of what you said when you phased out, but basically, a theme is like just the exterior, the feeling of it, the tone, revenge, a keyword, a culture, whatever, right? But you've got you've got gimmick is like in the Tomb of Morkul, like the one that he was running. I've got this like basically this Uber death trap where essentially you get too deep in it unlocks this giant colossus that starts storming through these large areas, and it can't get into everywhere.
Oh my God.
And then gas starts releasing in the other rooms to flood you out to where it can smash you. So I was thinking of it like that. I think of like the Upper Temple of Orcus with Rapanathuk, however you pronounce it, Dungeon of Graves, which is my favorite dungeon. I always run it. A big Frog God fan, and like Upper Temple of Orcus, it's like this huge set piece where the rock comes in. You got the guy with the ring teleport other, and like you run in, it's all these Orca sites, and you're like, all right, time to kick ass, and you run in, and you start fighting, and all these guys hit you with silence down the corridor, right? And it's like this whole chain of reactions, but it's really all about teleporting your butt right in the lava, because that's what it's really all about. I don't know. That's like some of the gimmicks I think of when I think of some of Bill Webb's like work, and I think of other like Goodman Games modules I run where like I remember very first one, old one I ran, where like there was like this one set piece where it was the mines, the mines of Silverton. I'm blanking on the name of the mod. It was one of their first ones, I think, with the Rat King. Idols of the Rat King was the name of it. And I ran that in 3.0, like back in the day. And I remember it was like all the mines and the were-rats, and you're like, yeah, mines, were-rats. But there was this like urn room where like there's like this black urn sitting there, and if you crack it open, this vampire comes out, and everyone craps their pants, and then they create the Nether City poop, and then they run, So it's like like so that like I think gimmicks like there's always like a set piece somewhere, right? Maybe it's simple, maybe it's complex, but and it makes it memorable. You know, like a lot of these big mega dungeons, like Arden Vool and all these other ones that are really fantastic. They have these set pieces, and I mean that's the word I'm using when I think of gimmicks. So I don't know if that jives what you're saying, Chubby, but that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's let's phrase it instead of a gimmick, something that the designer had in their head of like, I really want to see them walk into this particular like. There's other rooms where they were just making things to surround the room that they really want you to go into. You know, like the
so
door.
Would you say
made
that's
out
like the
of
beginning
in Morcall?
Would you say that's the beginning of the dungeon for a lot of creators? Is like they get this one gosh wow idea, and then the rest of it is like, how do I prepare them? How do I get the situation just right to introduce that so that will be the thing that the players talk about tomorrow or next week to people that weren't there?
I could see it happening that way. I don't know how many people do that way, but you know, there in every
well, I
dungeon.
mean, how you
like
guys
one
all do
room
this?
that
How do you
remember,
do it?
right?
How do y'all do it? How do you get started for someone who doesn't know what the crap he's talking about?
Macris, tell me, what is it?
What's the question?
What is the thing that starts you down the dungeon
What comes
path?
first? Yeah, what comes first when
I
you're like,
see.
okay, I need to create a dungeon? Is it this gimmick we're talking about? Is it like this gosh wow moment? Or I feel like asking Macris, he's gonna start with, okay, why would there be a dungeon and the simulationist, right?
Yeah, no, I mean you already know my answer, right? So I've got rules in the Judge's Journal where I lay out when I'm building a region how I place points of interest, and then how I need, you know, a certain range of points of interest at different levels. And so it's all in there. So I'm sketching out a map, and then I'm putting down the points of interest. And so then I'm like, okay, well, you know, if this is an area of forest and I need to have a mid-level point of interest here, what's a plausible mid-level point of interest here based on the other things in the setting? And I kind of just iterate. So, you know, I'll say, oh, well, you know, what if it's, you know, elves gone evil? Oh, well, why have the elves gone evil? Oh, I have this enchanter dude I put over here in this other area, and maybe he's enchanted them. And, you know, I just kind of iterate like that. And then generally what I don't myself make very many maps. Just I focus on what I'm good at, and I'm not a bad mapper, but I just don't do it very much. So I then, after I've kind of thought of my area, I'll just start looking at all the maps I've collected. I have a huge collection of maps I bought and found over the years till I find a map that kind of vibes with the vibe that I'm looking at, and then I just start, you know, abducting from there. So,
and yeah, that's an important secret if you're going to be running a lot at all. Be a magpie when it comes to maps. If you see a cool map, grab it.
Yep.
Because it might not be useful now, it might not be useful, you know, next year, but 4 years from now, you know, I need a spider infested ruin, and there's this perfect map that was spider infested and ruined, and it's perfect. You can use it immediately. You can stat everything up. So definitely be a magpie about that. Yeah.
So you're like,
yeah.
You're like on your way out of IKEA, and you got the brochure with the floor map, and you're like, all right, I'm going to retheme this bad boy, give it a gimmick, and this is going to go.
No joke, man. You know, you guys ever go to Ted's Montana Grill? It's like this burger joint where they do buffalo burgers. Mm-hmm. So the tablecloth in Ted's Montana Grill is actually like this. It's paper rather than cloth, and it's actually got a map of like a portion of Montana on it. And I took that shit home, and I was like, "This is awesome!" And I use that as a wilderness map. I am that much of a magpie.
Like, that's not barbecue sauce; that's lava.
Right? You know,
exactly.
like, just
you did. You know, nobody's mentioned yet what I think the most often missed part of dungeons when you're designing maps is verticality. That was the biggest problem with those procedurally generated ones you had. That's the thing that made me wince the most. Is it's all on a single plane. Yeah. When you can add a third dimension, it's shocking how much more that'll. Stairs up and down is good. Elevator shafts even better. Ledges to climb, they're the best. I've killed so many people. Or sorry, characters. Killed no people with it.
That
I've killed
got
some of the
dark.
characters with just with good old 1G accelerations, because that is a real danger. And anytime you go up and down, that's one thing that helps the linearity. If there's interconnections, that's another potential loop. So you can definitely add a little mapping complexity that way. But what's even better is if you have ledges, you have shafts, you have stuff that goes up and down and all around. If you can do that, that gives you chances to kind of preview other sections of dungeon. It gives you chances for the thief, the poor abused thief who everybody hates. That is what thieves are made for. Thieves are made to feel really cool and really awesome, climbing walls, poking around, and then dying when they fall. Like, that's the purpose of a thief. And then everybody laughs hard when the thief is dead. That's the entire point of that class. So if you're not giving him walls to climb, then you kind of know of it.
I ran.
Well, the thief. I feel like the thief is kind of the
ACKS
ranger
II.
of the dungeon.
Yeah.
I ran Caverns of Thracia with ACKS II, and the shadowy senses element in ACKS II for the thief was killer. It really changed things up because he could go down hallways, he could climb along the rifts that run through the map. There's a bridge over a descent into water. He can see further. He can do other things, all kinds of things that he can do that can't really do even in just basic OSE. It was really awesome experience.
Yeah, I count the shadowy senses for thieves as up there with cleaves for fighters as one of the best innovations in ACKS. So I concur, by the way, on verticality. Totally easy to overlook, and some of the best and most exciting, I think, adventures I've ever been in have had really great verticality. Like one like a mountain that you were sort of scaling up, and it had different temples and dungeons all the way up the mountain, and as you're going, just good stuff.
That is cool. Okay, well, let's do that then. How about we just kind of go around
that stuff? If you do design that stuff, use clues to indicate that they can go up or down in a particular way.
Oh, poor Chubby.
As soon as I say something, it's going to catch up. It's going to catch up as soon as
clues
I talk.
in certain ones of the. Sorry, Alex. Are there
not
clues
on you,
in
man.
Takara? Are there clues for which, like when they look up and it's just darkness? Is there a clue to like vines or something? I can't remember that. Oh, you could go up that way, or is it just there's just darkness if you look up?
There are some clues. I believe there's like some bat droppings in one of the rooms that's open. And you're like, where did the bat droppings come from? Yeah. So it's subtle. It's interesting. So I've run that dungeon a bunch of times, and about half the players instantly get it, and they go vertical, and it's a totally transformative experience. And then the other half are in it repeatedly, and they never notice the verticality. And so and then often that ends in tragedy when the enemy uses the verticality that they weren't aware of against them. And then, and it's very sad. Big sad.
I feel like the 1E Monster Manual and maybe the Fiend Folio had a lot of things that would like drop down on you from above, or like, grab you and pull you into the ceiling and do something horrible to you. I feel like you if you have a few of those early on, that can teach your players to look at the ceiling and think vertically. The Chubby Funster, I don't think it was the Fandelver video, but you were talking, it was one of your recent dungeon videos. You were talking about putting a door in the ceiling, and then if they have something to, if they can fly, then they can use that power to get there. But also, if nobody can fly, then it becomes an interesting challenge. Where it's like, how do we get to that door?
Yeah, if players see something, a lot of times they'll spend the whole week between sessions thinking of like, well, we could build an elaborate ladder to climb up to this place. That they don't want to leave any treasure behind. Something could be up there.
Yeah. I've often thought that would be a wonderful dungeon entrance, just to have like a hole in the ground with like an impossibly tall ladder just leaning against one of the sides, right? Like 100-foot ladder. And it's like, do you dare get onto that rickety thing and start climbing down? Because you don't know what's at the bottom, and like they might just kick the ladder out from under you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like such a taunt. Oh, what's down there? Do I dare get on it though?
Well, Sandy Peterson posted something about a
Okay.
trap where you were on a ladder and there was a Medusa that could look out like an eye slit and turn you to stone, and then you would fall down on top of all your friends as a statue. And I was like, that's the most brutal ass trap. Man.
Didn't that guy like make Call of Cthulhu? So he's like all about killing
That's peculiar.
Yeah, Sander Peterson has had some sort of like horrific curse placed on him where he has to make 3 absolutely terrible nightmare posts for every one good one. And I think that trap is definitely in the abusive GM nightmare post direction.
Oh my gosh.
But ladders.
Did you guys read the one about the pillar?
Great.
Which one?
Oh, Sandy posted about when he was a child and he ate a pill bug. Well, the
Oh,
first one he
that was a
crunched it up,
horror
but he said they were
Oh
full of
man,
them.
I'm like, Sandy, what are you doing?
Yes, he said like stale pee. And then the he tried to follow a hole, and he said that it unrolled in his esophagus and started crawling out. And because it's so smooth backed, no matter what he drank or swallowed, it just washed off his back, and he just felt it crawl all the way to his back in his mouth, and he spat it out. And I was like, oh my gosh. That's like, you can't just post that where anybody can read it, man. That's some rough stuff. I got a comment here from a Raptor Jesus Presents Altered Games. He says random teleport traps can also be fun. Your party, you're suddenly gone. Very devious to have it teleport you to random locations. How do you feel about teleporting? Because I feel like if you've got a guy who's trying his best to map the dungeon, that might take some of the wind out of his sails to just teleport him somewhere where he has no idea where he is. Is that one of those things that builds interest and excitement, or is that one of those things where everybody laughs at the poor guy it happened to?
Both.
Yeah, like everything else, it's probably something that should be used sparingly. Like if it's used every now and then, that's really cool and really fun. Mm-hmm. But if it's all the time, then somebody's just like, well, what's the point? I just give up. So
yeah,
use sparingly, they're great, but you shouldn't overuse the gimmick.
I think that's true across the board.
Yeah.
So it's like a problem where everyone always wants to do the cool gonzo special thing that no one's ever done before. But when every single dungeon is the cool special thing that no one's ever done before, then the game world ceases to make sense, right? I had the same problem with Shadowrun, where every Shadowrun, Mr. Johnson betrays you, and you're like, okay, well, if Mr. Johnson always betrays me every time, I just wouldn't take contracts from Mr. Johnson, and Shadowrunning would go out of business. Like, this is stupid. So you have to have like a baseline against which you occasionally riff. You can't make the baseline so gonzo that, because then they'll be like, well, I'm just not going to map, right? Because mapping is pointless because every dungeon is, a Mobius strip or some shit. And you're like, okay, this is dumb. I'm not going to map then. So, I'm very passionate about this issue.
I had a similar thought. This isn't about dungeons.
Yeah, no, it's not about dungeons.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but go please, Thunder. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say what you said reminded me kind of like Delta Green, where it's like almost like, man, you should run just a few normal FBI missions where you solve the mystery and it's all human and mundane. Because if every mission you go on, there's some great horror from the beyond, you're gonna be like, oh, well, they're calling on us again. So what kind of extra dimensional boogity boo are we gonna find tonight? It like loses the mystery if everything is crazy, like you were saying.
That's like Alien. Like you can't have the same party run into aliens on 4 different planets. Yeah, they need to have like some normal things happen. Everywhere we go,
we've got a distress beacon. Nuke the site from orbit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I know
Yeah.
what happens with a distress beacon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
Robert Hawkins says, I had a teleport. I'm sorry, man. I did not mean to talk over you. Go ahead.
No, please. Go. Robert Hawkins.
Robert Hawkins says, I had a teleport trap come up a couple sessions ago, made the callers scream and hand the roll to someone else, and the mapper got red in the face. My sides were hurting.
Yep. What I was going to say is I actually got scarred by this when I was running The Escapist, and every month, every week we would announce like our editorial theme for the week, and we would solicit articles. So like we would say, it'll be, this week's theme is going to be the Nintendo 64, what it was like growing up with the Nintendo 64. And then every single journalist would think, oh, I'm going to be so clever. And their pitch would be, I didn't own a Nintendo 64, and this is why I felt left out, or why the Nintendo 64 actually sucked, or whatever. And nobody would actually submit the freaking article where you're just like, I just want you to write an article about what it was like to have a Nintendo 64. Literally, that is what I want. I will pay you 25 cents a word. Nobody would do it. Everybody had to be, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. Sorry.
No,
Anyway.
It's a good rant. Like,
No, I get it, man.
Yeah, several
N64
planets ago.
kicked ass.
No, that was really good. But I was going to say several planets ago in my Stars Without Number campaign, they had a heist. My crew is very, very, very into smuggling, and they were smuggling a hacker off the planet while he was being watched by both occults and the mafia, which is standard stuff. And they had a plan. They had a very involved heist plan. They coordinated it. They planned it out. They did everything. They had every single contingency out of there. I rolled to see if any random effects happened. They dealt with the random effects without anything going wrong. And then they walked away. It was a completely, like, it would be terrible filmmaking because it was a heist that went off without a hitch. You don't want a heist that goes off that has, if you're looking at it as a movie, but what it did for them, they were so thrilled. For one thing, they felt like victory. They were like, we did it. We planned it. It worked. It went off without a heist, without a hitch. And then it also like, oh, whoa, this is a real world where we can actually plan things. We can actually do things. We're not going to be screwed around with because the narrative requires this. Instead, they're like, oh, whoa, no, our choices matter. We can have real plans. And it's made everything much more tense, but also much more interesting when they're doing, the next heist. Because they're like, well, will things go wrong? And I was like, there's a table. Like, random things do happen. But, there's also the possibility of things going without a hitch.
Yeah.
So, like, people talk about the verisimilitude being, not gamist. Sometimes people talk about it as if it is in contradiction with it. But I think it's actually with it. If people feel like they're in a real world, they can plan and make game plans more effectively than if they think that they're just in some sort of, narrative. They actually think that if it's a real world, that's kind of the dungeon, bringing it back to dungeon design and hints. People know logically how a castle is going to be out. They know that the king's bedroom is probably going to be in the upper keep.
Mm-hmm.
The king's bedroom is going to be in the upper keep. There's probably going to be dungeons in the bottom. There's going to be stables here. They know logically where all this is going to be. And so they don't have to have all these little hints that we drop. There's instead we can just be, okay, so logically I know how this goes. There's going to be guards. There's going to be some stuff that's there. And they didn't realize that the king also had a manticore that he had in the dungeons. But if they know logically how something should work, then they can actually plan their game plan a lot more effectively. And that means you don't have to worry about dropping all kinds of hints or blood splatters or anything else or a riddle. You can just say, hey, this is a logical place that we're encountering. It's going to have rules. It's a real world place. So that means they can make a game plan. They can be gamers a lot more effectively. And the funny thing is, for the narrativist people, that makes better stories. Like, that actually makes way better stories. Like, my players still say, hey, Guess what? There's this one time we had a heist and it went off without a hitch. It went beautifully, which, that's exciting. But other people are like, what? That it happened? But no, it's because it's real. It's because you guys plan. Your things matter. And that's how dungeons should be too. There should be some realism, and that lets them make choices that have meaning.
Absolutely.
It strikes me that if they're thinking about the game while they're not playing, that you're winning, right? Like if it's something that between sessions their mind naturally goes there, and they're planning and that kind of thing, that is a campaign that's gonna thrive because people can't wait to get back into it. And I feel like Overland, it's easier to do that. I feel like City Encounter, it's easy to do that. I feel like with Dungeons, it's harder to get that. I feel like with Dungeons, it's easier for people to just be like, drop in, do their turn. So what kind of things can we think about to make a dungeon like that, where it rewards and entices them to wonder about it between sessions? And while you're thinking about how you're going to answer that, I do want to say thank you to my ear trumpet has been struck by lightning for the $1 due. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate the support. Go ahead.
I think it's good to have parts of the dungeon that are way too powerful for them at their current level, but that they don't immediately just get murdered by, right? Like they need to have some distance, like they can see that there's, so like when my guys were in the Nether City, they could look down a poop waterfall and there was a bunch of poop walking insects that were down there that were way too powerful. Like there were like 12 of them. They're like, they would kill us. There were like 3 or 4 hit die poop monster walking things. And they knew that they couldn't do it. So then they went back and they kept thinking of like, what could we do to distract these insects, to kill them or whatever? Like, but if the insects had just immediately jumped on them, they would have just been dead. Like they need that distance to see the thing and then give them time. And so somebody could come back to the next session and be like, I thought of a way to kill those guys. And then you go back and do it. I think that's an important part.
So what are ways to like telegraph that without dropping them into it? I played a video game for a while called Destiny. And there was one level where they had like this kind of maze that you had to drop into and run through. And they had a robot. It was pretty much invincible robot that was like just going through the maze on its own route. And if it was faster than you could run, and if it hit you, it just instantly killed you. And before you dropped in, you could see it. Like there was a time when it would run underneath you. And there was even like in the room before you dropped in there was like, it showed you where he was on the map. And so I think like something like that, like you're in a tunnel and you see a grate. It's not a trap door. It's just a grate. And you can see one of those big monsters just lumbering along. And you realize, okay, at some point we're going to have to go down there and deal with that. Like what kind of stuff do you guys put in for those things? Or is this just absolutely the first time you've ever considered that?
Big rooms
You're all
helps.
welcome.
Big rooms is good.
Yay, the big room.
Things where they could see something like if it was sci-fi, being in a room with cameras, like you could see there's somebody in this other room to do the camera. But you could do similar things in D&D with scrying or transparent material, some kind of thing where they can
Wizard
the
eye.
thing they
Oh, Chubby.
Wait,
Is he at the beach? Is that what he said?
Don't start talking.
You could also teleport in and out of conversations. That will help also.
The next time he does that, we should all pose and do whatever he does for like 3 seconds.
Everyone and then everyone will stop watching my channel. All right, so we've talked about the map and navigation. We've talked about some of like the tent pole things that like get the juices flowing. Nah, or doing with the gonzo, because there has to be you can't just have all peaks. You need valleys. You need plateaus. You need the flat. How much do you guys think about hooks and motivation? Is that something where you're like, you need to be sprinkling it around there, or is it something like your hook? You know, your motivation is your paycheck.
For me, it depends on the campaign. I think there's
anybody
a
but
lot
Chubby can talk to this.
For me, it depends on the campaign, right? Like I have some campaigns where I just do straight up, you know, yo, you're pirates. What are you doing? Go pirate people. And then others, you know, when I ran Lord of the Rings, for instance, it felt like the players needed a lot more motivation because they were less inclined to want to just go randomly delve into, you know, a dungeon and slaughter people for gold. Like that felt gauche to them as Dunedain and Noldor and whatnot. So very campaign contextual.
Yeah.
I mean, revenge is a good one. I love like an NPC they hate getting away. I mean, I would never fake it, but if an NPC does escape, that has been some of the best. That's been some of the best and most fun dungeons I've ever run. My adventure site last year was actually an elven retreat that was their enemy that got away from them. Like he hid in that place because it was the whole point of it was a refuge for tyrants and villains. That was the whole thing. And so they like researched rumors on it. They got really angry at him. They were trying to find him. They loved that. They were really, really motivated by it. Of course, he had loot too. You always have to give them money, but there was also just that personal satisfaction.
If they get away, that's good. If they laugh at you while they're getting away, that's even better.
Oh, you always have to laugh at them. Make sure they feel terrible about the escape. Make sure that you, I like to do an after action report where I kind of like go through it with the players about this are the mistakes you made during play so that, you know, they know quite happily where they do it. But yeah, you just got to give them little noogies like that and they'll get nice and motivated. But also, if you have a cool enough dungeon, they're going to look for excuses. Like if you have a cool thing, if you have something that looks neat, they're going to generate their own hooks. They're going to get really excited. Like dungeoneering is the baseline because it's first of all what it was designed for first, but it's a fun gameplay loop. And if they love exploring it, if they see, oh, there's a cool thing here, they want to go to a cool thing. Players tend to be very completionist. They want to know where every nook and cranny is. They love to uncover secrets. They love all of that. They're just going to give that. That's the player motivation. So there's two motivations. There's player motivation and character motivation. The money thing is the character motivation. That's their reason. But the player motivation is way more important than the character motivation because players will generate character motivation. They'll come up with it. That's kind of the acting thing. They will say, no, my dude wants to do Y because X. Because if they are motivated, the players are motivated because they know this is going to be fun, they start coming up with reasons. They'll start motivating themselves. And that's also going to engage them in the world more because they're going to start coming up. They're going to start thinking of their dude as a real person. They're going to start looking at characterization of the person because they're saying, oh gosh, I really want to go to this place. So why would my character want to go here?
So how do you motivate players and characters to go into the poop dungeon? Not to keep harping on a theme. Yeah. The filthy lucre. Literally.
Well,
sometimes
I've said before on a lot of different places, I think stealing from the players, not the characters, excuse me. Stealing from the characters is good. Okay? So like if they're walking along and they get pickpocketed for 5 gold, they will.
Oh no. Oh, did I get locked out now? Oh damn.
No, we're we're playing along.
hunter and track him down.
Your face is still moving out.
And they can't find him because he teleported away.
But the thing you must remember is
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
and never forget it.
Yeah.
Yep.
The most important thing you guys need to know.
Well, I wanted to answer your earlier question, Dunder, that I use the ACKS II Judge's Journal advice about setting up your campaign world with a lawful and a neutral and a chaotic zone, and then dropping dungeons in those areas so that there's like enough of a diversity. Like this dungeon's for level 3s or better. This is for level 1, whatever, mix it up. And sometimes they screw up and think that they're going into the right dungeon and they realize they're in the wrong place. In my Gods of the Forbidden North campaign, they went into the Barrow of 8, which is for higher level characters than they were, and they ended up unleashing a whole bunch of undead and having to run away, and then that undead escaped out into the world. So the actions have consequences, but now they know it's there. Like if they don't have that stuff, then they won't. They'll always assume the dungeon is like the right level of difficulty for them. So things need to vary up and have, you know, that in Macris's example, Siphoron is in the lawful zone, but the Nether City is underneath it. Right. So even though it's in like this really safe area, it's this huge undiscovered secret place under this. So like mix it up so that no matter where they go, they're always wondering, is this good? Am I going to die going in here? Is this going to get a treasure for me? And that they adopt a curious attitude rather than an assumption that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, agreed.
You better agree, buddy. You wrote it.
I was in a fugue state when I write these things. Later, I'm like, yeah, I really agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is something to that, though, right? Like the two different sides of your brain, right? Like there's the primal creative part that you just have to switch the editor off and let him talk, and then you got to switch him off later and switch the editor brain on and say, all right, now that we've got that out of our system, let's make it good. Right?
Yeah.
You can't do both at the same time or you won't write anything.
It's true.
Yep.
It's true. Yeah.
So in the Chubby Funster's videos, I'm sorry to keep going back to him, but man, it's just so topical of what I'm interested in right now. You mentioned like you have like 3 colored dots that you put around the dungeon, right? You have threat, you have treasure, and you have like the interesting things, the stuff you can monkey with. Yeah. So how do you guys decide how you're spreading that around? How much of each type? What kind of treasure? Does treasure come first and then the defenses? Or because I think the treasure is kind of tied into my earlier question about what kind of hooks you use. If someone says, man, I walked by this crazy place and I saw a bugbear down there carrying a magic sword, you know, everyone's like, I'm going to go kill that bugbear and take his sword. Right? Unless they don't use swords or something. But how do you guys think about when you're creating a dungeon or when you're reviewing one that you've played or you're thinking about playing, how that stuff is spread around and what goes where? Threat, treasure, and interesting stuff.
I mean,
we haven't heard from Rob in a while. You got one on this, bro?
Alex, you want to?
No, calling you out, man.
Sure. You want to say? You say something, and I'll jump in.
All right. I mean, what I generally do is I'll try and give like about half the threats to have treasure, and then, but I try and make the overall treasure in the adventure equal to about 4 times the XP of all the threats. And so then the extra treasure that isn't with a particular threat is in some concentrated hidden vault or a hoard guarded by a particular threat that's hard to get to or something like that. And so you get this kind of like, not every single fight has an intrinsic reward, so it doesn't feel like pulling a lever and getting pellets. But you know, over the entirety of the adventure, you get about like the recommended gold for XP. But by using cleverness and avoiding some fights and winning the important fights and figuring out where the treasure is, you know, by smart play, you can get greater value at less risk. So that's the approach I use.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I need you done or you gotta slap me. Rob's go. Or I'm used to like Zoom where like everyone just shuts up because like no one wants to jump in the middle at the same time. Like back in the army, whenever the drill sergeant came on the bus and he said, "What are you privates doing?" And everyone leaps up at the same time. So I'm always usually like shy about jumping in. But anyway, so Alex, great answer. What I do with mine, I kind of think like Alex, honestly, a lot of the ways I do it. So I'm designing a big mega dungeon right now. I got 832 rooms in it. And one of the things I had to do is like, I first think historically, what's this castle? Like, what did it used to be? And I have to do that before I do any of the treasure monster stuff. I got to have it make sense, just like Alex was talking about. I totally agree with you 100%. I'm so glad someone else thinks that way. Because I read so many people who are like, you don't need to do that. And no prep people. And they're cool. I like no prep. I think it's great. It's just not me, you know? So I'm so glad when I hear and I see big actors. I'm like, I need something for everything. But anyway, so I would turn around and I've got my 832 room castle. And I like, what did this used to be? Because that's going to inform what it looks like today. And then once I've done that, then it's like, you know, to bring in that immersion, right? It's all about interactive fiction in a sense, right? Like it's like video games in a lot of ways. So I turn around and then once I get to that point, I start feeling like everything makes sense. This is what it used to be. Here's where it is now, 2,200 whatever years later. Then I turn around and I say, okay, I kind of take my Gygax, you know, 1/3 room of this, 1/3 of that. I start kind of casually going through and saying like, okay, I got this big list of ideas that I've been writing down on my to-do list. I start looking for places to drop them. I start looking for places to drop them. I do my treasure last because I want to look and see where everything is. I want to make sure it's all tactically fun, that there's meaningful choices, that there's evidence. And then I want to make sure, okay, let's sprinkle the traps in on top of that. And then once I see all that, then I go, okay, now I need to drop in some rewards to lure them in or reward them for dealing with that, whatever. So I feel like that's my process. I have to usually go in that order. I usually do treasure all at once at the end. And then I go back and the final thing I do is I look throughout all of the, you know, like a region and I say, okay, is some of this samey? Is some of this boring? Is some of this, you know, how can I spice this up? You know, and then I start thinking of, is this fun? You know, then I start thinking of those types of questions. And is there any little twist I can do to make it more fun? You know, and to me, that's my process. That's how I work. So and it seems to work well. I think overall, I always am very pleased with what I produce when I do that technique. If I do it in another order, I start getting mixed up or I start missing the fourth degrees, but that's just me. So is my answer.
Well, I mean, that is an ENNIE winning opinion, guys. So take that for what it's worth. How about you, Ben?
So yeah, so like just back, I like the thought of like threat, treasure, weird thing, or you know, interactables. Basically, that's a good way of putting it out. I actually usually, so the threat is usually a given. The threat I already know. If I'm making a dungeon, I already kind of know what faction is there, who's in charge, who they're going to be fighting, who might be rescued, who, you know, I have an idea of who's going to be inhabiting it. And then you can add extra things. Would there be vermin in here? Yes. Would there be undead in here? Maybe. So then after that, I'll kind of look and see, you know, where would they logically place based on, again, that real world thing. And then I usually put treasure in a logical place, although a logical place with, you know, fantasy logic. So of course the giant blue jewel, of course it's magically enchanted and it's a key part of their defenses. Like that just makes perfect sense. You should have that. So you always want to add, you know, fantasy in there, but it helps if you just kind of have treasure in logical places and have it, you know, I don't hide a ton of my treasure, but when I do hide treasure, it's usually in a place logically, where would these guys hide it? And then I'll put a trap in there. And levers are often fun because levers are best when they are, how is the dungeon, which is often old, screwing up? How are things breaking down? You know, I think the best Arnold K of all people had a great series when he talked about goblin traps.
Yeah.
And goblin traps are the entire point of goblin traps is they're so crappily designed you're in danger anywhere but where they intended the trap to be. So like a classic goblin trap is this big janky cage hanging up in the ceiling, and you step on the tripwire and there's a clank and the cage clanks down a little bit but doesn't go, but the whole rest of the roof falls in. You know? So you just have weird stuff that happens because
cage protects you from the cave in.
Right, because goblins are terrible at everything that they do. Yeah, so have some fun with that. Definitely like do weird stuff. The best is when you can have all of it. Like there's nothing better in the D&D experience than having a monster, so a big nasty dire octopus in a moat around a massive obvious diamond that clearly has some sort of magical trap or something around it. You put that in the middle of there, that there's a threat, there's a known threat, there's a threat that needs to be researched, but there's treasure right there. And that's where the magic happens. The magic happens when they say, okay, we have an objective. What weird and wacky thing are we going to do before we inevitably fail and just resort to stabbing it? That's
showing the trap is so much better. I mean, there's some, like, I can't remember where I heard about this one, but like they go into a room and they just see a staff of the Magi, but it's got a low ceiling, and when you try to grab it, like the staff is just jammed. It's like the bottom of it's touching the floor and the top of it's touching. And if they are strong enough, they can rip it out. But the entire ceiling is one big block, and the staff of the Magi was holding the block up. So if they get the staff, then it just immediately crushes them to death. And like something about it being their fault, that's just hilarious. I think it was Paths Peculiar, Nicholas Weistat, that he's been doing these 3D asymmetric traps, and one of them had like this just giant stone hand, and it's just this coming up out of the ground, and you walk around the corner and there's a ladder, and at the top of the ladder it's a rope ladder that's attached to a chalk that's holding a giant boulder. And so if two people get on the ladder at the same time, they'll have enough weight to pull the chalk out. The boulder comes down, squishes them, hits the hand, and then the hand magically throws the boulder back up to the top. Right, so it's like you can just get this big weird hand. You're like, I don't know what this is, and then the trap is hilarious.
The
but I
best
don't know if it's hilarious
death
for the players or just the DM. That's the rub, right?
It's hilarious in retrospect. The best character deaths are always the ones where they're afterwards going, yeah, no. In retrospect, that one's on us.
Yeah,
because it usually
we had
is.
that coming.
Yeah, the best character death we ever had was a guy got trapped. He used like a diminution potion to get into this treasure vault, and then he got on the far side, and while he was there, he goes back to his normal size. He's getting all the treasure together, and he accidentally sets off a trap which starts to fill everything with poison gas, which is going to kill him. He's like, how do I get out? How do I get out? And he realizes he's got oil of etherealness, so he can use that to escape, but he's in a panic, and he drinks the oil. And he's like, all right, I drink the oil. And I'm like, you sure? I mean, he's like, yeah, definitely. This will save me. And I'm like, okay. So he chugs it down. And of course it was oil. Joe, if you're watching this, we'll never let you forget it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was glorious. Yeah.
All right, so I've been neglecting it, but Patty has been dropping some amazing questions in the chat. So let me see if I can scroll back up and find some of them. And let me know if you see one that I missed. His first one, why do you think the common expectation for RPGs is that the dungeon will be okay? I'm not sure what you mean by that one, Patty. Tell me what you mean by okay.
He meant like when I was saying that you're confident you can take it on.
Oh, I see. It'll be okay.
You're not afraid of it. Like, am I level 3 and I need to be level 6 in order to take out this dungeon?
Well, do you guys have an answer for that? Like, why is that the common expectation now?
Skyrim.
I mean, just generally, like ever since 3.0, 3.0 had, you know, things like EL, expected party level, and CR. There was a lot of really good, I mean, high quality math that went into calculating all of that. And all that math and all that work made for, you know, good mathematically satisfying combats. And so, but the trouble is that then becomes D&D with a combat as sport rather than D&D as exploration. I don't mind tactics, like many tactics games. That's kind of its own thing. But the problem is, you know, if everybody expects things to be of a certain level, then they're just gonna, you know, get kind of mad when they don't get it. So that's why it is important to telegraph now. You shouldn't necessarily have Skyrim dungeons that level up with the players. You should have things that are easy and things that are hard. The nice thing about this hobby is that you can just kill them. I mean, it's not like that's the end of the world.
Yeah.
They don't die in real life. Like you can, if they blunder into some place that's too scary, and you know Dave's thief dies, then okay, maybe we're going to come back later, and Dave is going to be.
Have
really
you ever had anybody rage quit one of your games?
No, actually, it's always been. I've had people very upset when they lost their character, but it's always been. One thing that helps is I have character sheets available at all times, and if someone loses a character and they don't have like a backup, because a lot of times they do, but if they don't have a backup, the first thing I say, I'm sorry, man, that's really hard. Like, because it generally is upsetting. And then I hand them a character sheet. All right, start rolling. Like, we'll move forward when it's logical. You get there. Basically, like, you are welcome. You're here. You're playing because you're the player. The character, they might come up and they might come down. I mean, it's hard sometimes. And you should respect that. That's one reason why I don't do I make fun of my players all the time. I just said, I talk about their failures to catch that NPC, but that's actually one thing I never do. I never make fun of somebody who's like lost a character, because that actually genuinely is hard. But what I do is, I'm genuinely sympathetic. I'm really sorry, man. That really sucks. Everybody else is that really sucks. But then here's your character sheet. Let's see what you roll up next. That's kind of the when you were asking about motivation, that's a big one. I have never had a more motivated set of characters than where it's the site of where one of the characters died before. They're like, that golem killed Dave 3 levels ago. I think we're ready for it now. We're going to get it. Like, that is a great, talk about player motivation. That is a huge deal. That's a huge motivator.
So, Patty just asked to follow up on that about what do you tell a DM who does finally kill a character and the table walks away because of table culture? I'd be curious if you do the same. I found when you start a new campaign with new players, it is actually better off if the very first session is one of the toughest sessions and you get some death early on, because then that sets expectations that anyone can die, and you don't have PC glow, you don't have main character syndrome, you can get ganked. Whereas if they play the first 3, 4, or 5 sessions, nobody's died, everybody's built up an attachment, and then Bob loses his guy, then it gets perceived totally differently. Whereas if Bob or Jim loses his guy in session 1, it's like, oh, okay, wow, I guess he wasn't kidding. People really can die.
That's the one benefit to gauntlets or funnels, starting we just opened up a new campaign area in my world, and I just handed people literally a fistful of sheets and said, get 5. You guys aren't all going to survive. This is going to be an evolutionary process to see what the stats of your new character is. That's a great way to start it, because I was going to say half of them died. Half of them were lost. One of the characters wishes he was dead and is now being used by harpies to make new harpies for a long, long time. But the point is, you lose characters like early, and that kind of shows it. Alex is basically advocating for prison rules. Find the biggest, toughest character and murder him, and then they'll respect you.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't say that you should deliberately murder the character, right? Like, don't fudge to cause their deaths.
Yeah, never do that.
But don't fudge. Like, the mistake is people make, like, oh, I don't want to kill them on the first session because then they'll won't have fun and come back, and that's the mistake, right? Just let the dice roll as they may.
You got for those of you who perspective here, the perspective is they killed themselves. Okay, so if like here, let's take it into the real world, right? if there was a construction site right next to my house, and my friend came over and drank 4 or 5 beers and walked over and started fucking around on the construction site and fell down and killed himself, no one would be like, Greg killed him. You know, he killed himself. Like, he did it, not me. So I'm just the construction site. That's all. He went on there. He knew what he was doing. He took the risk. He slid down the rope on the cliff and went into the Tomb of Morkal. He went down the poop chute into the Nether City. If he dies, he dies. That's not on me. I'm trying to help him live, right? I'm trying. I'm trying to role play it realistically. I'm trying, like I give them a chance. I say, hey, you sure you want to open that? You sure you want to do that? And then if they still die, you know, Macris didn't make that guy go into the vault and drown or turn into gaseous for what. He didn't do any of that. He just said, there's a vault. And this guy was like, I'm going in. Like, that's on him.
Yeah. So when I asked the question about rage quitting, two of you, the two on the bottom of my screen, nodded. Did it have to do with this issue that they expect the DM is going to keep everything balanced, or was it something completely other?
Oh, it's completely other. It was.
Okay.
Yeah, no. The rage quits I had was one in Star Wars, where there was a rule that, you know, if you acted from anger when you used a force point, you got a dark side point. And
That's right.
What happened was the character had a starship, and the starship got stolen, and he starts shouting. He's like, "Motherfucker stole my starship! Force point! I'm shooting that, you know." And I'm like, "Well, you seem like you're angry." He's like, "I'm not angry. I'm just, you know." And so I was like, "Dark side point." Dark side point. And he ends up losing his character as well as the starship because of all the dark side points he accumulates. And he just went crazy on me. And I'm like, "Okay, you're definitely not angry, bro." So he rage quit and walked out of the session. It was pretty funny.
Turned into an actual Sith.
Yeah. And then he like later apologized. Was like, "Can I come back from the dark side? I feel so bad." And then the other one was in Cyberpunk 2020, and it was a rage quit because they found out that the Netrunner had secretly been hacking all of their bank accounts for like 20 sessions, and that they all of their savings were gone, and you know, they were. I guess I don't know if that was a rage quit or if that was just a rage end of campaign. I don't know. It was,
the PvP is real.
Bad day in Night City.
I mean, but true to the au revoir, right? Like that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what I was like, come on, man, that was epic. But,
you got a Netrunner in your crew. What did you think would happen? Oh man! All right, how about you, Rob? He asks as he takes a sip.
Yeah, I've had so many over the years. So now I tell. I can't even remember. I had one guy, he spent back in the 3.5 days, he'd spend 4 hours making a new character. So he's rolling in 7th level. He makes this ranger, right? He's sitting there while we're playing. I'm making his character. They're helping him pick this.
Mm-hmm.
Makes the guy, they introduce him, and they're like, all right, we're going to this dark tower. And there's this door, which I describe about as obvious as it telegraphed as much as you could that this is a bad door. And he goes, I'm going to go touch it, Rob, and wiggle the handle. And all of his buddies, look at his buddies, all the players. And they all just look at him. No one says anything to save him. He's never played before. See what happens. And I'm like, oh my God, is he really? And I always tell my players, hey, I roll out on the table, boys. Whatever happens, it's randomness. It's life. And so he turns around, he touches his thing, disintegrate. So I take out my 24d6, and I'm like, whoa, boys, and throw it on the table. They go all over. We're counting them up, and I see Mark across the thing go, that's a lot of 5s and 6s. He gets eliminated completely. Everything he did for 4 hours or whatever, gone in a moment. First action he ever took, and he never played again. One of many. And I was like, I'm not saving him. I don't save
He's
you.
gonna
I'm not
jiggle
gonna
the
save
handle.
you. No, but I blamed his friends. I turned to his friends, and they're like, "We're alive."
Like we wanted to see that go down, honestly.
I know, right? Like, so I had a lady in Star Wars. Same thing. She rage quit. I told her up ahead, like, I'm not gonna save you. Like I'm gonna roll. It's a narrative game. We're all gonna like enjoy the death, right? It's fun. No, she said okay, and then didn't mean it. And like you see this stuff. You see this stuff all the time. I don't know. I come across this problem all the time. At least I used to. So now I screen my players. I know which ones are good and which ones won't rage quit.
So would it be fair to say that a good player has moved past the assumptions? Because like this whole the combat will be balanced for me. I feel like that's in the 5e DMG. I feel like that's part of the modern understanding of the game. But I feel like that type of play is not as satisfying as one where you have to take the world seriously and you have to honestly understand your abilities and the abilities of what you're going up against and make wise decisions. So would you say that like part of the test is somebody that's willing to lose a character and laugh it off and keep playing? And how do you figure that out?
I think there's a big tell, which is if you give them a randomly created character and they balk and go, I really want to be a half-elf ranger with this subclass, like that red flag.
Yeah.
They're coming in with they want it to be a particular way.
But my backstory.
There's kind of like it's almost like it's like a Buddhist thing. Like you reach a point of detachment where you're like, I don't even care what the guy is. You could just press a button and he's a halfling fighter named Rob and he's got this in his pack and that's it. I'm good to go. I don't care anything else. It could be random, right? But if I'm like, I only play tieflings and they have to do this like that person will cry. That person will cry when you kill them.
How did you guys learn how to hold your characters with an empty hand? Is that something you learn from perspective as being a DM first? Or is that just something where
we played old video games? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, remember Doom
Persia?
One, like you died all the dang time.
Yeah.
And then like Doom Eternal, like I played it, right? I'm like, all right, Doom, it's been so long, and it's like handhold, go straight. There's no blue door behind.
Death.
Hey, you haven't opened me yet. I'm still back here. None of that stuff. They all hold your hand.
Yeah.
So it seems like 5e or the D&D mainstream edition kind of followed the video game, like, like evolution, if you want to call it that, where it starts simplifying things, making things linear, holding your hand, giving you the little like carrot to go that way. It seems like they made it simpler and simpler and simpler for some reason. And I don't know. Well, we probably didn't come from that because, Wolfenstein, all these other old games, where you just died all the time.
Yeah.
Or like a Silent Hill where you're like backtracking to find that one item to put the key in, let you go forward. You're like, was it in the fridge in that one apartment? Where was that thing?
And the game says, I'm not telling you.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of stumbled into Patty's next question. He says, 30 years ago, the conception was tourney dungeons that were unforgivable. Was it a sudden calculated change or a gradual journey? Because that might have been what laid in those assumptions that people have that are making them rage quit when they don't understand how the game goes, right?
So I'll say this. I think the RPGA scoring system had a big part to do with that. When those early dungeons were run, your score for going through the tourneys was based on how far you progressed, how many monsters you killed, did you achieve certain missions. A decade later, when I was in the RPGA, if you were in like the Grand Masters, it was like almost like a point of pride that they didn't engage with the module at all, and they just role played their characters in the taverns and whatnot. And it had entirely transformed from being this mission-oriented focus to theater, and you actually kind of got looked at funny if you came into it with a mission focus. And then that changed again when it migrated from 2nd edition into 3rd edition, and then it became about the mission focus again. But then it was all about like, had you properly built your living Greyhawk character to be min-maxed for it. And so you can kind of see, but what was driving what, I don't know, but it definitely matched up. Like my convention experience matched up with the edition and the play styles that I saw outside of the conventions.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Was anybody else in the RPGA? Am I the only one who was in that?
I never played it.
Yeah.
I read a article in a Wired magazine that my boss used to have in the bathroom at our company for like forever, and it was about Halo 1, like Halo, original Halo, and it was this like insider conversation with these people, and they talked about how they modeled the levels, and then they would run playtesters through it, and it was working fine. But then when they started running random people through it, they had trouble navigating certain parts of the levels, and they tracked where those people would most likely to get hung up, and then they would smooth out the level at that point so that those people would find their way through the level. That kind of thinking got applied to all kinds of stuff in order to bring in a bigger audience. Because you can't have everybody get through Mega Man 2. Okay, you will fucking die. Like, it is insanely hard. So they want to make Halo so that everybody can play Halo and they can get that $50 from everybody, rather than just the people that are elite, and so everything, role-playing games like that, you see video games doing that, you even see board games like that are so that you almost can't fail in some cases, because they want you to be able to play it with the dumbest of your friends rather than you to feel like some kind of sense of accomplishment for being the smartest. Your mastery. Exactly. Like, I want to be the one who makes it. They want to make it so everybody can make it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that mediocrity does just kind of spread out to the point where if you want to play a game that rewards attention and focus and taking it seriously, they'll get mad at you for being a cruel DM, right? And then they rage quit because you're violating the assumption.
Macris has some term for when he has all these big crazy philosophy terms. I don't know them all, but it's when the goal is aligned with the resource to get you to the goal. So like doing the things that you want the person to do in the game result in the reward that helps get them there.
Oh man.
Do the thing that you want. Do you know what I'm talking? I don't know when I cut out, but like if you have gold for XP, it will push people to do the things that will get them the gold. That's what you want as the designer. Yeah. What's that conversation, Alex?
Yeah, that was an article I wrote on Arbiter of Worlds, and then I later put it in the Judges Journal, and it was based on actually stuff I learned in law school studying law and economics, where they said that essentially a legal system should be understood as a means of, creating the rules for how the economic incentives are going to structure behavior in the society. And so essentially, your game design, like your XP system, more or less creates the incentives that the players will respond to. So if your XP rewards, if the XP is awarded by the GM for his assessment of their role play, then actually what will happen is the players will just try and use theory of mind to figure out what will amuse the GM, and they will do that. What does the GM think we should do? And so then the game actually becomes a game of brown-nosing the GM to get XP from him. If the game rewards, successful skill rolls, players will actually try and figure out how to take more skill rolls to solve problems rather than try and figure out problems without skill rolls. That's happening to us in Call of Cthulhu now, where like my group is like, we're playing Call of Cthulhu and you get XP for making skill rolls. They're like, wait, instead of just solving this with one skill roll, let's use 4 skill rolls to do it. So it's players responding to incentives is a whole section in the book. Yeah.
Have you guys ever played Forbidden Lands?
Mm-mm.
So the most ridiculous example of that I can think of, the way that you build up the mojo to use magic is when you try something and you fail. It's like that's kind of like the reward for like a failure isn't completely bad because it gives you this like resolve. I forget what they call it, but I was playing the very first time with a spellcaster, and there was people far away, and like his special powers were he could see far away and he could hear far away. So it really didn't help in a fight, but I was trying to get some information, and because it was my first time playing, I didn't have any of that built up, and so I was just like, all right, I will try to do backflips until I fail enough to be able to use the magic. And so I get this little goblin just jumping on his head like 3 times in a row, and then I could cast my spell, and it was almost like clumsy magic. Like, I know they didn't intend for that to be how it worked. Maybe we missed a rule, but it was ridiculous.
I think you have it right. Like the chat has been talking a lot about Pathfinder Society, which I think there's also what is it called? Dungeon League, the Dungeons and Dragon equivalent to
Adventure League or
Adventurers League. Yep. Those, unlike the RPGA was tournament dungeons. The dungeon is the thing. How do you do it? The dungeon. How do you do it? This thing that you're playing at. Whereas Pathfinder Society and Adventurers League, you can re-hit a piece of content all the time. The focus there is my dude is leveling up. I am bringing my character here. I'm doing this with my character. So all the investment, all the incentive is just show up and do cool things, or at least survive with my character. It's a different style, but you also see, going back to Patty's, why are dungeons expected to be okay? Yeah, because if the purpose of the world is to level up your tune, that's also a danger. Like the word tune is a danger because that means they have different influences. But if they are there to level up their guy, then that's a different incentive. Then the world exists. The world exists independent of the players. The players are interacting with the world through the medium of their characters.
Yeah.
But that's what I was talking again about dungeons engaging the players. It's a lot easier to not be obsessed with your character if what's engaging is not your character, but what's the dungeon is first engaging the player. The guy is like, man, I am so glad I'm here again. I re-rolled this guy. This guy has better stats. I'm really determined to figure out what happens, what's behind the trap that killed Steve last time. Like, because that's the focus. The focus is the place. The focus is the mystery. The focus is the environment they're exploring. And that's a player desire, not necessarily a character desire.
So in the Broasar, we talk a lot about the spotlight on the mono party versus the spotlight on the world. When the world becomes the main character, you're playing for the fascination of discovering that and making your mark on it, right? Like you want to be the main character of the after action report for that session. You want to do the thing that's the funniest or the most audacious or whatever. Mr. Robin Good asks, speaking of reaching that detachment from character death, how, if at all, do you notice that detachment impacting how much players invest into the game? And I think behind that question is, if I do hold my character with an open hand, if I don't care if he dies, do I care about the game as much? And I think part of the answer lies in your assumptions about the game, and if you've gotten to the point where the world is more important to you than your one character. What do you guys think about that?
I think most people care more about their character than the character cares about their character. But I mean, this is
what do you mean by that?
They go into dangerous places and fight dangerous, mind-bending shit, and we're like worried about them, right? Like that, like we're their parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strong agree. Right. And most of them have firm religious beliefs. Like they literally every day of their lives, they see that the gods are real. Afterlife is real.
Yeah.
Valhalla is real. Like, if my character dies, he's going to an eternal paradise with hot bitches and feasts every night. And like, I'm going to be way more sad about it than he is. Yeah. So strong agree.
Right on. All right, one more question from Patty, and then we are coming up on 2 hours. So I want to try this. I want to try this giveaway thing and see if that even works. Question from Patty: 30 years from now, do you think we will have seen another dungeon that has risen to the same celebrity status of Tomb of Horrors or White Plume Mountain? And do you think there's been one made in the last 10 years that's worthy of that? So I'd say maybe my take on the question would be, what would be your vote for a dungeon that will last that test of time and fame?
Ardenvool.
Ardenvool?
Yeah, that's
1E dungeon.
There's nothing like it. It's 1,100 freaking pages. It's
big.
It's a historian who wrote it. He's Richard Barton. Teaches up at was it UNC or I forget which of the university. I think it's UNC. But so he's in North Carolina, like you are, Alex. I think.
Oh wow! I should link up with him.
Yeah, no, he's there, and he's a great guy. I'm a professor too, so we do the professor talk sometimes together. But he his book is, I'm still reading it. It's it's huge, and it's just. And it's starting to get out there. You're starting to hear people running it. 3D6 Down the Line did. So I think that dungeon, give it some time. There's just nothing like that. I mean,
just because of the sheer scale of it.
No, it's he's like, I guess, like Alex and I, like he's a real historian. So his stuff, there's a richness to it, and he took that extra step to really layer in, the history and lore and the why is this here, and I think it's just one of those amazing products that just sort of quietly came out and slowly people were like, what the hell is this?
Okay.
But that's what I would say. That'd be my guess.
All right. That's your guess. How about you, Alex? Same question. What dungeon is worth the fame? Not necessarily the best one you've ever played or your favorite, but what do you think is the one that is going to last?
All right, I'm actually going to go for something obscure that came out around the same time that didn't get the notice it deserved, which is Zeb Cook's OA1 Swords of the Daimyo is I think one of the very best adventure books ever published. It's not quite a dungeon; it's kind of a sandbox setting with a dungeon, with a mega dungeon alluded to. Like, it's just fantastic. So,
right on. Okay, Ben.
Well, I mean, the correct answer has to be The Cairn of Night by Ben Gibson. That's going to be kickstarted at the end of the year. Well, I mean, so I say that sounds very self-aggrandizing, but I actually recently finished up a campaign in it. It's enormous and huge, and I super believe in it. Like, I'm very excited about it. It has a lot of the concepts in it that go, but I don't think, to answer Patty's question, I don't think you will see something that has the same cultural impact as like White Plume Mountain or something like that, just because there's a lot more fracture in the culture and in the hobby. I don't know if anybody's noticed, radio stations are playing hits from the 80s, 90s, and today.
Yeah.
Which means today has now lasted a quarter century.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's because culture has fractured so much that there's not any somebody can make something brilliant and brand new, but it's going to get like a lost. There's going to be people who find these hidden gems and are like, wow, this is so much better. I mean, this is the most incredible thing, but they're not going to be able to have the same cultural impact as the smaller, the smaller culture, the smaller hobby. There's that first mover advantage, and there's that early, just early everybody played it. So I don't think there's going to be a new one. I do think if you're looking for like smaller dungeons, there is something that needs to be praised, which is Webs of Past and Present. It is Prince of Nothing did the No Art Punk contest. Several years ago. I'm sure you heard of it. The winner of the first one was Webs. I had entry in that set, but I had nothing compared to Webs. Like, I was I was honored to be in the same book as that thing. The thing was not nearly the scale as like one of the big mega dungeons, but it was about 3 sessions. I've played it. It is incredible. It just everything moves together just with incredible beauty and atmosphere. There's all the ups and downs, all the dungeon design, everything is just like made just with instinctive like perfection. Everything works together, all the magic works together, all the theme works together. Every part of it is I mean it's known. I mean it won the contest, but I think it is really it's unfair that it's not more well known because that thing is brilliant. And
the first volume is it for a while it was pay what you want, right?
Oh, it's free. Yeah, all the new stuff is free. So yeah, like if anybody wants to check that out, that thing, like I said, it's a smaller one. It's not a mega dungeon, but it is really underappreciated. It is an incredible piece of work.
All right, you've had enough time to think about it now. The Chubby Funster, what is your pick?
Well, I think that there's a ton of fracturing, exactly like Ben said. Yeah. And there's a great comedy bit from Mark Maron about Turd Journey. And he's like, everybody now is like coming up and they're like, have you watched Turd Journey? And you're like, I haven't even heard of this show. And he's like, it's on Clomper. And he's like, I haven't even heard of the app that your show is on. Like, that's the difference. And he's like, people are coming up to me and they're like, you got to get Clomper. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. That's where we're at. Like, so for me, it's not, I don't think there's going to be any dungeon that's going to be like the thing that everybody points to, because that's not the way our culture works anymore. But I think what people will have is settings or campaigns that they look back and they go, I did that. And they're in a conversation and they're like, I did that and it was really awesome. Right. And so I think that there are people who are putting together a curated experience like that. And that was one of the reasons why I started making videos recently on my channel that weren't just for my promotional stuff, but like looking outward to say, you know, like, what would when I'm making things, what am I aspiring to be like from I'm trying to create this curated experience that I want people to have. And I used Gods of the Forbidden North from Rob as an example. I think Rob brings up Dolmenwood as his example, things like that. Like people have something like that, right? That they're like, I did this thing and it was really good. I love Alien. There's these modules that came with Alien that are just fantastic modules, right? So I don't think that there's any one thing. It's that somebody can go, oh man, I played in that and it was really good. And there's going to be a limited number of people that do that. I've heard, I can't remember if it was Macris or somebody he was interviewing on Arbiter of Worlds, was like, you know, it's not that I have to get everybody to like my thing. If there's like 1,000 people that are really into my thing, that's good enough for me. That's my target too. Like, I'm not looking to be the next, you know, maybe even like ShadowDark level person. I'm looking to create like that the small group of people who is just really into whatever it is, the thing that I've made. And I think that's the best I think you can aspire to as a creator, is to have something so good that like you have this little cult of people that are like, this is awesome, you know. And that's what I want to get.
Right on. And if you want a dungeon that is also a turd journey, it's the theme of the night.
That's right.
Oh man, we got to stop talking about poop. All right. Thank you guys. Let's try this thing. Let me see if I can get it to work. Share screen giveaway tool. So hopefully everybody can see that now, the giveaway tool. And what if you guys want a chance to win 4 Against Darkness, the Dundermoose Sorry, I didn't know I was going to give it away. I put my name in the front here. The Dunder Moose. I didn't illustrate it, but I colored it.
Kind, folks.
One of one. You were going to put the text hashtag the number 4, the word against, capital A. So hashtag. I would type it in there for you, but I don't want it to pick me. But my guess, you guys are welcome to if you want this. I colored it. I did, Patty. So hashtag number 4 against, for 4 against darkness. All right. Hashtag 4 against. Don't do it just yet. Hang on. I'm going to start collecting comments. So I'm going to click it now. So go ahead and do it. Oh, okay. It did catch you. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So I got 4 entries in there. I'm going to leave it open for just a bit. Anybody that wants in on this, just to know, you are going to have to get in touch with me through my email or something, and so I can get your address or your PO box or whatever and send it to you.
It's working, by the way. Did you notice you're up 9 subscribers?
Yep, I'm up to
as
9.
of this.
Yeah. So I wonder, man, should I do one last question while those are still coming in?
No, I was just saying your channel went up 9 subscribers this stream.
Yeah,
really?
You should be giving stuff way more often, apparently.
I guess so. Rock on, guys.
Congratulations.
All right. Your next coloring
It's
book.
criminal you don't have 4,000 subscribers. Like, seriously.
Well, I have an idea for Rob. Okay,
Yeah.
so I bought a joke gift from my brother a little while ago that was a Scientology coloring book. Now, you've got in Gods of the Forbidden North a Scientology-like religion. You could make a Gods of the Forbidden North coloring book with all the characters from that Scientology religion, and you could move some units, Rob. I want to see it happen.
I'm just saying, I like this style of illustration that has nice big open white space in it. That's not too shaded because it lets Dunder do the coloration. I do have one big show. Look at this one. I got the mind flayers coming at you in all their glory. All right, this is your last chance. If you want in on this, hashtag number 4, capital A against. 4 against. Commodore says, "Oh, all subs are hat based. We know that's why." All right, I got 11 entries. I'm pushing the button. What did you say?
It's the mustache, not the hat.
Oh, the mustache. Yeah, I might have to change some things up in order to get over that 1,000 mark. But here we go. 11 entries. I'm pushing the button. Here we go.
A mustache is like a hat for your lip.
It's the eyebrow of the mouth. Hey, Bradford Walker is the winner.
Woo!
Bradford Walker. Go ahead, Bradford. I don't know if you've already got my email address or not, but I am, unsurprisingly, I am dundermoose@gmail.com. Reach out to me. I'll email you back. We'll figure out a way to get your information and get this copy in your hot little hands, man. Congratulations. And thank you guys for being
a great
here.
Twitter account to follow.
Oh, dude.
He has a great Twitter account.
His Twitter account is amazing. His Substacks are awesome. You guys should check it out. He is like single-handedly reviving the concept of the Clubhouse, keeping it in the zeitgeist. So thank you guys for being here with me. Thanks for being on this show. I was so impressed. I was like chewing on my knuckle when I saw the guest lineup I was going to have for you guys. So, and I feel like y'all lived up to it. This was a fascinating conversation beginning to end. And I know we're just getting started. We could probably go for another hour on this stuff, but people need to go to bed, and you do too. If you want to show some support for these guys, scroll all the way up. I have linked all of the links where you can get some more, I'm not even get some more action from these folks. That does not sound good. Get you some Chubby, get you some Ben, get some Pulp and some Archon. Scroll up and get that stuff. Show us that you like this by giving us a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed and you can put up with more of these shenanigans, go ahead and click on that and Have a great one, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks again. Thank you.
Take care, man.
Everybody.
Appreciate it.